Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another day of lockdown lessons. Today, we are going to be looking at the fingers. And the title I have chosen for today's lesson is Sensible Fingers. And I think it's interesting to think about how we understand the word sensible. So if we think that that person is sensible or that part of us is sensible, it means it responds well to the situation, or it responds in accordance with kind of wisdom. But part of the root of the word is sensibility, and it really comes from our ability to sense and to process information and respond well to that information. So sensing is at the heart of good action. And that, I think, is something that is worth thinking about. We often think that, especially in our modern culture, that it's really good to have strong willpower. It's really good to push through certain situations, to be gritty and to get through life, to kind of, in some way, kind of be in control. But one of the interesting things about our senses is that we don't really have control over them. That's information that comes towards us, and there's nothing that we can do physically to improve or change the quality of the information. What we can do is we can change or improve our ability to sense the information as it comes towards us, which is like discernment. And then from there, once you've got better at sensing the incoming information, you can then adjust your action, your outgoing action. So this kind of sensibility or sensibleness, I think, is kind of really very a key concept in the Feldenkrais method, where we're looking at how we can make the body more, maybe more intuitive is a good word, but it's more like its ability to listen to the incoming information and to act on it with wisdom. So I hope that's a useful little explanation for this lesson. Good morning, Louise. Thanks for tuning in. Again, if anyone's watching on replays and they just want to drop a comment down to let me know who's watching, where you're watching from, I very much appreciate the discussion. So say hi if you're watching, please. Okay, so today's lesson is going to be focused on the fingers. And just before we do anything, I'd like you to look at your fingers individually, specifically the tips of the fingers. So the tips of the fingers have a fingerprint on them. And if you look really closely at the fingerprint, you might need to have your glasses on or get your fingertip pretty close to your eyes, depending on your eyesight. But what you'll notice is there's a little spiral in the middle of the fingertip. And it's an interesting place because if you think that the skin itself is kind of wrapped all over the body in different ways, in some way the skin knows at this point of the fingertips to create this little spiral pattern. And that's something that one of my Qigong teacher talks about quite a lot in terms of the kind of the balance of yin and yang in the body. But you can see that the physical, like the body's understanding is to create this little pool, this spiral in the fingertip. And that's on every single fingertip. I assume it's on your toe tips as well. Haven't checked recently. Hi, Colette, morning. But yeah, just to kind of get some sense that this is an important part of the body. Again, as I've mentioned during the week, the sense receptors in the hands are obviously one of the highest parts of the body. It's one of the places that we get a lot of information from. So with all of that said, what I'd like you to do is close your eyes, come to a comfortable sitting position. And with your eyes closed, just bring your attention to both your hands. How your hands are resting this morning. whether the fingertips are kind of curled inwards. There's more of a sense of clenching of the hands, whether they're more open, the palm is more open, more relaxed. Just notice for yourself. And you can check whether there's any difference between your right side and your left side as well. Good. Very gently, what I'd like you to do is place your thumb on your index finger, okay? And your hand's going to be resting down on your lap still. And what I want you to do is with your thumb, trace around in a circular movement around the fingertip of the index finger, okay? So your eyes are closed, found a comfortable sitting position. You're touching your thumb to your index finger, and you're very gently, very slowly tracing a circle around the tip of the index finger. Okay, and your hand is resting on your lap. I'm just showing for the camera. The thumb is just tracing very gently, very slowly, and see if you can make your thumb very comfortable as you do this movement. See if you can kind of find a way to make this a smooth circle, that your breathing is not held. And when you've done it a couple of times in one direction, change the direction. Make a circle around the index finger in the other direction, and then change fingers. Bring the thumb to the middle finger. And very slowly, very gently, begin to trace a circle around the tip of the middle finger with the thumb. So you're just making a small circle with the thumb on the index finger. The index finger is staying relatively still. Mine does have a little bit of movement as I'm doing this, but it's not kind of active. Good. See if you can keep the thumb soft, keep your breathing soft. And change directions. Good. Swap. So go onto your ring finger, your fourth finger. Make small circles with your thumb. Small circles with your thumb. Good. And then the other direction. And just feel the kind of sense of contact. You've got your eyes closed, your fingers are touching each other. And there's this kind of like internal sense of how it feels and the external sense of the contact, the touch between the two fingers. Good. Change directions if you haven't already. And then swap over, and lastly, do your little finger. Again, just making a circle around the tip of the little finger as if you're kind of tracing the fingerprint or the spiral of the fingerprint. And then around the other direction. Good. And just take a little rest. Take a little rest with your fingers. And then just because we haven't done anything kind of focused on the thumb, take each finger individually, so the index finger starting with, and just draw a circle around the tip of the thumb. So now it's the index finger that's active and the thumb that's passive. Using the index finger to draw a little circle around the fingerprint of the thumb. Good. Change directions. And then swap and do it with your middle finger. Now the middle finger is active and you're tracing a circle with your middle finger around your thumb. Just do it a few times. Change directions. Good. And swap to your ring finger. Use your ring finger to draw a circle. And do you feel like your fingers are becoming more sensible? Are they kind of able to engage in this tiny little circular movement kind of gathering all the information that they're receiving from touch, from your internal sense, and becoming more responsive in some way. And then change and do your little finger. Use your little finger. I might need a watch to do that. Use your little finger, now I can do it, to go around the circle of your thumb, the fingerprint of your thumb or your thumbprint. Good. And then let your right hand rest. I don't know if you've been doing it with your left hand, then let your left hand rest. The hand you've been active with. And just notice a difference between the feeling in the two hands. Can you feel that in some way the hand that you've been working with is more responsive in some way? It's got more life to it than the one that you haven't been working with. Good. So bring your hands up. Bring your hands up. Okay, and I want you to have the palms separated so the fingers are touching. And you keep the hands roughly in the middle of the body. And what you're going to do is you're just going to bring the hand that you've been working with away and bring it towards. And just notice that moment of touch. Bring it away. And if you want to do this with your eyes closed to present a little more challenge, because it's like the hand that you've been working with has got to find the connection point in space to feel where the other hand is, where the other fingers are. Taking one hand away and bringing it towards. And just feel that moment of touch as those fingertips that you've been kind of circling around come into contact with the fingertips of the other hand. Bring the hand away and towards. Just feel that moment of touch. Good. Bring the hands down, take a little rest. When you're ready, begin with your second hand. For me, this is the left hand. Begin using the thumb to circle around the fingerprint of the index finger. And just do it a few times in both directions. Maybe you can do it like 5 or 10 times in both directions. Again, close your eyes, do it with your eyes closed, check in with yourself. See if you can make this a really kind of comfortable experience. So as you're moving your thumb, it feels relaxed. You're not making kind of a big effort to move your thumb around the fingertip. Change directions if you haven't already. And then move over and start to do the movement with your thumb on your middle finger. So now you're using your thumb to trace round the tip of the middle finger. And do it a few times in one direction and a few times in the other direction. And notice if your left hand or your second hand is slightly less skillful than the first hand. Is it less sensible even? Good. And then change to your fourth finger, again making the circle a few times in one direction, using the thumb to circle around the tip of the ring finger. I have my hand up while I'm doing this just to kind of show it on camera, but you can have your arm nice and relaxed on your lap. Change directions. And hopefully with your eyes closed, it's like you become more familiar with these parts of your body as you're doing it. Change to the little finger. Use the thumb to make a circle around the little finger. Each time you move the thumb to a different finger, see how that changes the position of the thumb. Does it change its comfortableness? Can you make it softer, more responsive? Good, and change directions. See if you can keep the little finger still. It's tough. Good. Have a little rest. Have a little rest. And then very slowly begin to take your index finger around the tip of your thumb. So see if you can get your thumb not to move. If you want to hold it to make sure it's not moving, that's not a bad idea. See if you can do with your index finger the movement that your thumb was making before. And then change and do it with your middle finger, using your middle finger to circle around your thumb. When I'm thinking about this lesson, it's like the image that comes to mind is those little tarsier creatures that kind of come out at night and have these really big finger, for kind of attaching onto trees. And it's like they've got this like massive sensing ability in their fingertips. And then if you haven't done your middle finger or your ring finger or your little finger, just try circling them around individually around your thumb. In both directions. So it's like you're building up a mental image of the circle of the thumbprint. And then the little finger. Good. Take a rest. Again, check in with the feeling that you have in both hands. The left hand versus the right hand, the fingers on the left hand versus the fingers on the right hand. How do they kind of compare with each other? After we've spent a bit of time focusing on the right hand, the second hand, which for me is the left now, what does that feel like? Does it feel like it's kind of woken up? Does it feel equivalent to the right hand? I still feel like I've got a little bit more awareness in my right hand than my left hand, even though we've done some work with my left hand. Okay, bring your fingers up again, and this time close your eyes if you haven't already, and take your fingertips away from each other. In fact, actually, let's do the left hand first. So leave the right hand still, so you've got a point of reference. Take the left hand away, so all the fingertips leave, and then come back, and all the fingertips touch each other. And just pay attention to that moment of bringing the fingertips away and leaving contact and bringing them together. Bringing them away and bringing them together. And you could imagine that they're kind of like drawn together. So the fingertips want to touch each other. Away and together. And then bring the hands together. And then very slowly do the movement with both hands. So both hands now coming off the midline, bringing the fingertips away. Both arms being active. And then feel that point of contact. And see if you can kind of get an equivalent amount of like receptiveness versus pressure. So it's like you're ready to sense the other finger and you're not kind of pushing it. You're not, it's like the difference between like, meeting someone and being kind of kind and a nice handshake, or like really gripping the hand, making it quite an aggressive meeting. So just see if you can kind of like find a way for the meeting between the fingertips to be nice, to be a nice experience. Good. And then leave the fingertips together. Leave the fingertips together. And just a few times you can kind of flex the hand and open the hand and just feel that the fingertips can move at the same time as being connected. Flex the hand and open the hand, keeping that sense of contact between the two fingertips. Flex the hand, open the hand. And notice how all the fingertips have a different sense of pressure against each other. Good. And then bring your arms down and take a rest. And so rest with your eyes closed. And just kind of feel down into your hands. Use your attention, use your imagination to kind of like picture your hands, the palms of your hands. And just, imagine that you are reaching out to touch something and what information you would receive from that thing. Is there a sense of, the hands becoming more receptive to the information that they touch? Okay. One final thing to do, and this is a fun one. So what I want you to do is bring your hands back up to this position, where all the fingertips are touching. I want you to separate your two thumbs. So if I show you underneath, separate your two thumbs and then just make a circular movement. This is with your eyes closed, of both thumbs around each other. And try and not touch the thumbs. Try and move the thumbs together so you're making this circular movement and you're not touching the thumbs against each other. Once you've done it a few times in one direction, change directions. And what you'll notice is the thumbs are quite capable of this movement. This is a movement that's quite familiar, or the thumbs have a degree of dexterity that really kind of is, this movement is within their remit. So you could make it a little faster. Try not to touch the two thumbs together. Good. And then when you've done it a few times, just bring the thumbs back together and touch them. Okay, then what I want you to do, and I don't know if I can show on here, is to separate the two index fingers and make this circle where the index fingers are not touching each other. Hi, welcome from Indonesia. It's nice. See if you can use your fingers, your index fingers, just to make this circular movement, and then change directions. Go in the other direction. See if you can keep the two index fingers from touching each other. Can you feel that you could keep the fingers soft and dexterous and receptive as you do this movement? And you could change directions again, make it faster. Good. Take a little rest. Bring the hands together again. And then begin to do the movement. So you're going to make space. Begin to do the movement with the middle finger. So as you're doing it with the middle finger, again, you might want to kind of slow it down to begin with. Make the movement more conscious. Keep the other fingers connected. And make this circular movement where the middle fingers are not touching each other. They're not in contact. Change directions. Keep breathing. It kind of gets harder as you go down the fingers. Good, and then bring the middle fingers back together. Change and begin to do this movement with the ring finger. The ring finger circling around each other, seeing if they could not touch each other. So at first you might need to do that quite slowly to feel that sense that they can kind of stay apart, stay disconnected. Change direction. Okay, and then bring them back together. Take a little rest with that finger. Again, it gets a little more difficult as you move down the hands. For some people, they might have a great degree of dexterity in their fingers, and this is quite easy. But what I want you to do is notice as you bring your fingers back together, like what's the sense of connection? What's the feeling in that finger? Does it feel more solid in some way? And then lastly, we're going to do the little finger. Taking the little finger round in the circle, seeing if both little fingers can stay out of contact, but all the rest of the fingers are in contact. Change directions. Change the speed. Good. And then bring your two little fingers together. One last time, just bring both hands away from each other with your eyes closed. And maybe you can make the movement a little wider. You could bring them further away from each other. And then bring them towards each other and feel that moment where they come into contact. How the fingertips meet, how accurate they are in finding each other. Can you feel that the fingers now are kind of coming together more sensibly than they were at the beginning? So at first you might be kind of missing and kind of misjudging, but now you're receiving all that sensory input from your fingertips. It's like you can guide them together in a sensible way. I hope that's the case. So just bring your hands down and rest. Take a moment just to kind of let your arms, let your fingers rest. That's a little bit of a finger workout. So let your fingers take a moment to kind of to relax and recover. But notice as you've got your eyes closed and as you bring your attention to yourself, does your sense of your hands seem kind of alive or awake or large? You know, could you imagine that your hands, your palms are very large and your fingertips are very large? And this relates to the mental representation of the body and the brain called the homunculus. And there's certain parts of the body that are represented in a bigger, richer way than other parts of the body. And that's because they're more important in some way. Touch and the hands is one of those areas. So hopefully you can feel that in some way it's like your receptiveness to what the input that you're getting from your hands now has improved, making you hopefully more sensible. So if you feel more sensible, please drop it in the comments. If you feel less sensible because you've spent 20 minutes wiggling your fingers, that's also appropriate to drop in the comments. So I hope you've enjoyed that lesson. Tomorrow, I think I'm going to be working on a kind of classic Feldenkrais concept of the bell hand. But I'm going to be doing it in a slightly different way, looking at one aspect of the hand specifically. So if you're interested in that, come and tune in tomorrow, 11 o'clock. If you think that this lesson might be useful for people that are sitting on computers, using their fingers a lot, and getting some tension in their hands, please like and share it. You can share it via my Thoughtful Movements page. You can also share it via my YouTube channel. You could take the link of the lesson and share that as well. So if anyone wants to do that, please do. If anyone wants to talk about the lesson in the community group, I could start doing a little thread that has like a lesson discussion part. So people have an opportunity to discuss the lesson between them and what they found and whether it was interesting. I hope that there's enough in the lesson to make it interesting that you want to discuss it. So great. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I will be back tomorrow morning. Take care. Bye.